we go. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. At our last planning meeting, one of the areas of education that we wanted to maybe focus on in the next couple months was impromptu speaking. The benefit of impromptu speaking is in these moments where you have to prepare a speech quickly, or you don't have an opportunity to prepare, you're able to provide a cohesive response to a question. This is why we have table topics. I'm waiting to get some response from Toastmasters.org on a couple of things. I think I found a speaker who could provide a session for us in the next couple of months, but I need to hear back from Toastmasters first. Oh, did you have something, Juan? Oh, you're good. Okay. In the meantime, I thought it'd be helpful to provide, I did a little Googling and try to find some helpful articles on table topics and how to go about it and potentially improve the way that you get better at table topics. And one recommendation they had was on structure. So if you have an idea in your head of how I want to structure the response, in 15 to 20 seconds, you can take a moment to think of, okay, I thought of an idea, how am I going to go about it? So I wanted to share just a couple slides on the structure. Let me just share my screen real quick. Are you able to see my screen? Great. As we mentioned, impromptu speaking, why should we care about it? So what is it? It's delivering a message with little to no time to prepare, why we should practice it. It allows you to organize your thoughts in a coherent manner. It prepares you for job interviews, impromptu meetings at work, improves your prepared speeches and everyday interactions. And how we do this at Toastmasters is we use table topics. We also use meeting roles to practice some impromptu speaking. Okay, next, can you see this screen, the Oreo? Wonderful, okay. How do we get better at impromptu speaking? One of the acronyms that they recommend to use is this idea of a sandwich or a structured format, or also known as the Oreo method. The Oreo method is O would be your opinion. So the first thing that you want to state is your opinion. If it's a yes or no question, you want to say, I agree that, or I disagree that. You can answer the question directly, or you can state your position. The next is the because portion. So tell them why you made the point, the reason you agreed or disagreed. This section is really about the core message you want to convey. And the third section is explain. For example of the story, we want to think of this as the meat of the topic for your table topics. You want to share an example or back up to your reason. This could be a story, a personal anecdote, a statistic, a research. It could even be a quote. And then finally, you want to end and wrap it all up with your opinion once again by saying, this is why. Finally, I conclude by restating your opinion. This gives the audience to understand your overall message that you're conveying. And then if you really want to challenge yourself, you should end it really with a call to action. How do we turn it and make it beneficial for the audience? Here's an example that I found on this website. There's also, in addition to the Oreo method, I think this is the easiest to start with. There were 7 other recommendations, but this is an actual example they provided of, okay, you get this question during table topics. Life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react. Do you agree? The person states, yes, I agree that life's not about what happens to you, but how do you react? The reasoning, so the second part, the example, I believe that adversity is the fuel of greatness. We all have heard many stories of people born into poverty who later went on to become super successful in life. And then the example they use is Oprah. Oprah grew up in an extremely poor and dangerous neighborhood. Her parents were divorced when she was young and she was sexually abused. With such tragic childhood, there should be no reason why she should do well, but she did. She got a scholarship, won a few beauty pageants, later had one of the most successful talk shows in history. She became one of the wealthiest women in America and among the highest paid entertainers in the world, and also made generous contributions to charity. Oprah is only one of the multitudes of rags to riches stories, which have proven over and over again that your circumstances don't define you. They wrap it up with, once again, going back to the beginning, hence, I agree that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you react. If you want to add the cherry on top, you would end with, so ladies and gentlemen, the next time you're met with a hardship, use that as a fuel to propel you to greatness. That would be an example of how to use the Oreo method. And then a few additional tips I found that I thought would be helpful just to think through before you get to tabletop. So is just take a few seconds or pause. You can even mention this to the table topics master. Okay, I'm just trying to think of something to give you a little bit of time to calm your nerves and to come up with a topic. They do recommend that you kind of go with the first thing that pops into your head, and then to draw upon your life experiences. The one point I didn't put in here is that idea of adding that structure. So restate what the question is, whether you agree, your response, the example, and then ending with the question again and your point on it. And then when you find yourself rambling, you can just stop and recap your points and your opinions and try to end with that punchy ending. One other recommendation that's not on here is, once you get better at table topics, one recommendation is when you hear the question, think of the response that would be out of the ordinary, because that will be the response that will really pull members and people in if it's not the typical response. And then the last is really just keep practicing. When you're at meetings, raise your hand and try this different method, see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, you can try a different structural method. And with that, that was my short, speedy topic for that. I will pass it back to you, Brent.